ஸ்தோத்திரம் செலுத்துகிறோம் அப்பா. மரணம் பள்ளத்தாக்கிலே நான் நடந்தாலும் நான் பயப்பட மாட்டேன். பொல்லாப்பினை நேரிடாது, வாதையின் கூடாரத்தை அணுகாது என்று சொன்னவனுமாக மரண பள்ளத்தாக்கில் நாங்கள் நடந்தாலும் ஆண்டவரே, நீர் எங்களை உங்களுடைய மீட்கும் கரங்களை கொண்டு நீர் மீட்பீர் என்று விசுவாசத்தில் பாடுகிறார். உமது கோலும் உமது தடியும் என்னை தேற்றும் என்று சொன்னவரே ஆண்டவரே, எந்த சூழ்நிலையாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, மரணிகளின் பள்ளத்தாக்கில் நான் நடந்தாலும் ஆண்டவரே, எந்த சூழ்நிலையாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, மரணிகளிலே நினைக்கிறேன் கோட்டையின் தேவன் நான் நம்பி இருக்கிற சொந்த சூழ்நிலையாக சரி, சூழ்நிலைகள் மாறாவின் கசப்பை போல இருக்கும் சொன்ன ஆண்டவர் பார்த்து சொல்லு ஆண்டவரே. ஓ ஹல்லேலூயா ஆண்டவரே, நான் சொல்லுகிறேன் ஆண்டவரே, இந்த நேரத்தில் நீர் என்னோடு கூட இருக்கிறீர் என்று விசுவாசத்தில் சொல்லுகிறேன். அந்த மாறா போல இருக்கிற கசப்பான காரியங்கள், வாழ்க்கையில் இருக்கிற காரியங்கள் எல்லாம் ஆண்டவரே, ஒரு மறுமலர்ச்சி உள்ள ஒரு புத்தியுள்ள காரியமாக மாறத்தக்கதாக, ஒரு மறுமலர்ச்சி உள்ள ஒரு இனிமையான காரியமாக எங்கள் குடும்பத்தில் மாறத்தக்கதாக நீங்கள் செய்கிறார். அப்படியே சேர்ந்த அந்த பாடலை மறுபடியும் பாடலாம். மரண இருள் பள்ளத்தாக்கில் நான் நடந்தாலும் உங்களுடைய மீட்கும்
ஹல்லேலூயா. ஆண்டவருடைய பரிசுத்த நாமத்துக்கு ஸ்தோத்திரம். இந்த வேளையிலும் உங்களை எல்லாரும் சந்தித்ததில் இந்த ஞாயிற்றுக்கிழமை காலை ஆராதனையிலும் உங்களை பார்ப்பதில் மிகுந்த சந்தோஷம். இப்பொழுது கூட ஆண்டவருடைய வார்த்தைக்கு நேராக நாம் கடந்து செல்வோம். பாஸ்டர் பாபி நமக்காக வார்த்தையை கொண்டு வருவார்.
Welcome to our study of the Gospel of John.
I have fallen in love with the work of Paul as I've studied the book of 1 Corinthians, and I believe you will too.
This is where Jesus taught in Capernaum. You have to understand this scene.
The Lord is my shepherd. And over the next 6 weeks, we're going to look deeply into the 23rd Psalm.
Right Now Media. It's for groups. It's for personal devotion. It's for parents. The bullseye of parenting is to raise children to become like Jesus. It's for kids.
This is Phil. We're digging into the Bible, which, as we've mentioned, is more than just a book.
It's for tough times.
So when you recognize that you're trying to have a conversation with your spouse and they're not ready to talk, it's not helpful to keep pressing them.
It's for every phase of life.
If you make mistakes with money, you know what that makes you? Over 12.
And now, it's yours. We've purchased a Right Now Media subscription for everyone in our church. So check your inbox for the digital invitation and download the app for instant access to thousands of biblically based videos. Get equipped. Get inspired.
அன்பானவர்களே, இந்த காலை வேளையிலே உங்களோடு கூட இந்த வார்த்தையை பகிர்ந்து கொள்வதில் மிக மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகிறேன். 1 பேதுரு 1வது அதிகாரம் 3வது வசனம் முதலாக வாசிப்போம். 1 பேதுரு 1வது அதிகாரம் 3வது வசனத்திலிருந்து நாம் வாசிக்கலாம். நம்முடைய கர்த்தராகிய இயேசு கிறிஸ்துவின் பிதாவாகிய தேவனுக்கு ஸ்தோத்திரம் உண்டாவதாக. அவர் இயேசு கிறிஸ்து மரித்தோரிலிருந்து எழுந்ததினாலே அழியாததும் மாசற்றதும் வாடாததுமாகிய சுதந்திரத்தை நமக்காக கொடுத்தார் என்ற அந்த வசனத்துல வாசிக்கிறோம். இங்கிலீஷ்ல வாசிப்போம்னு சொன்னா, it says, praise be to God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his mercy, in his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Christ Jesus from the dead, and into the inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade, kept in heaven for you. ஐந்தாவது வசனம் இவ்வாறாக சொல்கிறது, who through faith and shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation is to be ready to be revealed to the last time. இந்த இடத்துல 3 காரியங்களை
சகலத்தையும் புதிதாக்குகிறேன்.
He is going to make everything new.
எல்லாவற்றையும் புதிதாக்க
சென்று கொண்டிருக்கிறோம் என்பதை நாம் அறிய வேண்டும். நம்முடைய வாழ்க்கையில நிறைய காரியங்களை நாம் சிந்தித்து 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 செயல்படுகிறவர்களாக இருக்கிறோம். ஆனால் இந்த இடத்துல சொல்லுகிறது என்ன சொல்லுகிறதுன்னு சொன்னா, these are things that will perish someday. நம்முடைய வாழ்க்கையில இன்றைக்கு நாம் பார்க்கிற காரியங்கள் நாளைக்கு காண்பதில்லை. நாம் ஒரு பழத்தை எடுப்போம்னு சொன்னால், ஒரு உதாரணத்துக்கு, for example, if you take a fruit, it cannot stay as ripe fruit for a long time. அது பழுத்து விட்ட ஒரு பழமாக இருந்தா இன்றைக்கு நாளைக்கு நம்ம சாப்பிட்டாதான் அது ஒரு ஃப்ரூட்ஃபுல்னஸ்க்குள்ளாக அந்த ஒரு டேஸ்ட் இருக்கும். அப்படியாக தான் நாம் பார்க்கிறோம். A fruit which is ripe cannot be held for a long time, and that is something that we also need to desire. We also need to understand that certain things in our life will perish. ஆகையால் தான் பேதுரு இடத்துல அவர் சொல்லுகிறார், பேதுரு இந்த இடத்துல நமக்கு சொல்லுகிற காரியம், ஆண்டவரை குறித்து பார்க்கும்போது, he has given us new birth into the living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He has given us new birth. இரண்டாவது, he has given us a living hope. முதலாவது என்ன சொல்கிறார்னா, we have a new birth. புதியதாக ஒரு சிருஷ்டியாக மாற்றப்பட்டிருக்கிறோம். புதியதாக ஒரு we have come into living with God என்பதை அந்த இடத்துல சொல்லுகிறதை பார்க்கிறோம். and it says we are called into a living hope. நமக்கு விசுவாசம் நம்பிக்கை இருக்கு. There is a purpose and there is a reason. அவர் அப்படியாக சொல்லுகிறதை இந்த இடத்துல வசனம் நமக்கு காண்பிக்கிறது. இயேசு கிறிஸ்துவின் மரித்தோடத்தில் எழுந்திருந்தாலே அழியாததும் வாடாததும் சுதந்திரக்காகவே ஜீவனுள்ள நம்பிக்கை உண்டாகும்படி. தமிழ்ல ஜீவனுள்ள நம்பிக்கை, இட் இஸ் தி லிவிங் ஹோப். ஜீவனுள்ள நம்பிக்கை. நம்முடைய நம்பிக்கை விதமாக இன்றைக்கு இருக்கிறது என்று பார்க்க போறோம். நம்முடைய நம்பிக்கை வாடுகிற நம்பிக்கையாக இருக்கிறதா, இல்லை நம்முடைய நம்பிக்கை பெரிஷபிள் நம்பிக்கையாக இருக்கிறதா? இன்றைக்கு நாம் விசுவாசத்தில் நம்பிக்கையோடு இருக்கிறோம், நாளைக்கு நமக்கு நம்பிக்கையும் விசுவாசமும் குறைந்து விடுகிறதா? இன்றைய காலகட்டத்தில் நம்ம பார்க்கும்போது certain things are perishing in front of our eyes. நமக்கு கண்களுக்கு முன்னதாக சில காரியங்கள் மாறிக்கொண்டிருக்கிறது. Certain things are fading away from our hearts. நம்முடைய கண்களுக்கு முன்பதாகவே அது ஃபேட் ஆகி போய் கொண்டிருக்கிறது. ஒரு 10 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்பதாக இருக்கிற ஒரு காரியத்தை நீங்கள் சிந்தித்து பார்ப்பீங்க என்று சொன்னா இன்றைக்கு நடந்தது மாதிரி இருக்கும். ஆனால் கொஞ்ச நாள் கழித்து அதை விட வித்தியாசமான, அதோட ஒரு டிஃபிகல்ட்டான ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷனுக்குள்ள போகும்போது நாம் அந்த சூழ்நிலையை பார்த்து சொல்லுவோம், இது இதை விட லேசான காரியமாக இருக்கிறது என்று சொல்லி. So நம்முடைய வாழ்க்கையில் ஒரு struggles and trials and temptations and ஒன்றாக பார்த்து கொண்டு போக what happens is we come to the understanding, yes, we are capable of handling it என்கிற ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷனுக்குள்ளாக நாம் வருவோம். அப்படியாகத்தான் as a believer இயேசு கிறிஸ்துவை அறிந்த நாம் முதலாவதாக ஒரு புதிய ஒரு it's a new born, நாம் புதுசாக பிறப்பதை போல என்ன செய்கிறோம்? Because of Jesus Christ we are born. இரண்டாவது, we are called into a living hope. நமக்கு விசுவாசம், ஜீவனுள்ள விசுவாசம். ஜீவன் இல்லாத விசுவாசம் அல்ல, ஜீவன் உள்ள விசுவாசத்துக்குள்ளாக தான் பேதுரு நம்மை அழைக்கிறார். ஜீவனுள்ள விசுவாசம் என்று சொல்லும்போது it has life, it has a heart, it has a soul and it has a mind. அப்படியே ஜீவனுள்ள ஒரு விசுவாசத்துக்குள்ளாக நாம் செல்லுகிறவர்களாய் இருப்போம் என்று சொன்னால் one thing we need to be sure, ஒரு காரியம் நாம் சிந்திக்க வேண்டும், it is only through Jesus Christ, இயேசு கிறிஸ்துவின் மூலமாக மட்டுமே அதை நாம் சுதந்திரிக்க முடியும். 4வது 5வது வசனத்தை வாசிக்கலாம். அப்படி வாசித்து வரும்போது 7வது வசனத்தில் I just want you to quote this in English. These have come so that your faith, which is worth as gold, which perishes even though and through the refinement of the fire will prove genuine. அப்படியாக அந்த 7வது வசனத்துல நமக்கு எதுக்காக ட்ரையல்ஸ் வருது, எதுக்காக ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் நம்முடைய வாழ்க்கையில சூழ்நிலை எவ்வளவு சேலஞ்சிங்கான டைம்ஸ் வருது என்று சொல்லும்போது அது ஒரு புடமிடப்படுகிற ஒரு focused something which is perishable, but when it is going through a trial it becomes better என்பதை அந்த இடத்துல நாம் பார்க்கிறோம். We need to understand this. நாம் ஒவ்வொரு இடத்துல ஒவ்வொரு சிச்சுவேஷன்ஸ்ல போகும்போது நாம் அறிந்திருக்க வேண்டும், அதற்கு ஒரு பர்பஸ் இருக்கிறது. அழிந்து போகிற பொன் அக்னிக்குள்ளாக சோதிக்கப்படும் போது அது என்ன ஆகிறது? It becomes much better and அதுல இருக்கிற கழிவு அழுக்கு எல்லாமே எடுத்து போடப்படுகிறது. நம்முடைய வாழ்க்கையில அப்படிதான். இன்னைக்கு இருக்கிற சேலஞ்சஸ், இன்னைக்கு இருக்கிற சிச்சுவேஷன், இன்னைக்கு போய் நாம் சூழ்ந்து கொண்டு இருக்கிற சிச்சுவேஷன்ஸை பார்த்துட்டு நாம நினைக்கலாம், is this the end of everything? No, there is something beyond this other than the living hope. It is a new life and it is something that we can look for in our eternity. நாம இந்த உலகத்தில் இருக்கிற காரியத்துக்கு இவ்வளவு யோசிக்கிறோம், இவ்வளவு சிந்திக்கிறோம் என்று சொல்லி நாம் நினைப்போம் என்று சொன்னால் how much more do we need to worry about eternity? அதுதான் பேதுரு இந்த இடத்துல அவர்களுக்கு சுட்டி காட்டுகிறதை பார்க்கிறோம். அந்த காலத்துல பார்க்கும்போது they were going through a difficult time. அவர்களுக்கு நிறைய persecutions போய் கொண்டிருந்தது. they had no future என்பதை தான் அந்த இடத்துல பேதுரு குறிப்பிடுகிறார். they had no future at all, but you and I have a future, you and I have a hope. நமக்கு தேவன் மூலமாக we have a living hope in Jesus Christ. 6-7 ஆகிய வசனத்தை நான் சுருக்கமாக சொல்லி I just want you to join me in prayer. 6வது வசனம் 7வது வசனத்துல அநேக காரியங்களை குறித்து சொல்லுகிறார். ஆனால் 3 காரியம் அதுல we need to have is one is the confidence. நமக்கு ஒரு கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ் வேணும். நான் இந்த சூழ்நிலையிலும் ஆண்டவர் என்னோடு கூட இருக்கிறார், எந்த சூழ்நிலையிலும் ஆண்டவர் என்னோடு கூட இருக்கிறார் என்ற ஒரு கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ். அவர் நம்முடைய வாழ்க்கையில நமக்கு போய் கொண்டிருக்கிற பாதையில he knows and he does only good things in our life என்கிற ஒரு கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ் நமக்கு வேணும். இரண்டாவது, நம்ம ஒரு பிரச்சனைக்குள்ளாக போகும்போது we need to have the perseverance to go through. இன்னைக்கு இப்படியாக செய்ய வேண்டும், நாளைக்கு இப்படியாக செய்ய வேண்டும், எப்படி ஒரு நாள் ஒரு இன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன்ஸ் நமக்கு வரும்போது let us not give up, let us not be people who give up, but let us be people who give and persevere through the situations and problems. அப்படியாக நாம் இருப்போம் என்று சொன்னால் that is what God is expecting us. One, we need to have confidence. இரண்டாவது, we need to have the perseverance. And மூன்றாவது, we need to take the courage from Christ. Because we are called to be brothers, we are called to be sons and daughters of Jesus Christ. எட்டாவது வசனத்தில் இவ்வாறாக ஆங்கிலத்தில் சொல்கிறது, though you have not seen him, you loved him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. For you are receiving the goal of your faith, the salvation of his soul. It is the saved man that God is looking for. இன்றைக்கு இருக்கிற சூழ்நிலையில maybe there is challenges. The world today is perishable. The world today is going to fade away, but eternity will remain. ஆண்டவருடைய ராஜ்யம் நிலைநிற்க போகிறது. There is someday that God will bring your salvation for the souls. இன்றைக்கு நாம் ஒரு தீர்மானம் எடுப்போம். Are we willing to have the courage? Are we willing to have the confidence in Jesus Christ, who's more concerned about the souls that we have than the things of this earth? Yet he doesn't say that he is ignoring us. அவர் நம்மளை அப்படியே விட்டு விடவில்லை. ஆனா அவர் சொல்லுற காரியம் இதுதான், ஒரு தங்கம் அது it is not a living thing, but அது ஒரு purification உள்ள போகும்போது it becomes pure. நாம ஆண்டவருடைய ஆண்டவருக்குள்ளாக நாம செல்லும்போது we gain confidence, we gain the perseverance, and we gain courage to withstand anything. இந்த சூழ்நிலையில ஆண்டவர் உங்களோடு கூட இருப்பார். அவர் உங்களோடு கூட இந்த காரியங்களை அறிந்து அவரோடு கூட நீங்க பேசும்போது let him give the confidence to overcome the situation. இன்னைக்கு உங்க கையில இருக்கிற சிச்சுவேஷன்ஸை ஓவர்கம் பண்றதுக்கு அவர் உங்களுக்கு ஒரு விடுதலை தருவார். Let him give the strength to persevere. அவர் உங்களுக்கு அந்த perseveranceக்குள்ள அந்த ஒரு strength கொடுப்பாராக. அவர் இதை எடுத்து செல்வதற்குள்ள courage அவர் உங்களுக்கு கொடுப்பாராக.
I moved to Los Angeles, pretty much seeking fame. I had some success at acting and some success at writing. It ultimately wasn't enough to sustain me, so I kind of fell into set design, and that's what I do now. For a while, it was fulfilling.
அநேக நேரத்தில் நாம் தயாராக இருப்பதில்லை. ஒரு விஷயம் அப்படியே கண்களை மூடலாம். பரலோக பிதாவே, இந்த வேளைக்காக நன்றி செலுத்துகிறோம் ஆண்டவரே. இந்த வேளையிலும் பேதுருவின் வார்த்தைகளை போல ஆண்டவரே, if you are a God who is more concerned about all the things of this world and beyond, we do not need to worry, O God. ஆண்டவரே, நீர் எல்லாவற்றையும் சகலத்தையும் படைத்த கடவுள். நாதரே, எல்லாவற்றையும் கவலை இல்லை ஆண்டவரே. Lord, we ask you, give us the strength, the confidence, the perseverance and the courage to stand in this situation. இந்த வேளையில எங்களுக்கு அந்த கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ் கொடுக்கும்படியாக ஜெபிக்கிறோம் ஆண்டவரே. You are more concerned about all the plans and everything that we see around. நீங்க நம்மை சுற்றி பார்க்கிற எல்லாவற்றையும் மீறாக ஆண்டவரே, நாளை நேரத்தில் இங்கே நடக்கிற ஆராதனை காலை ஆராதனை நோக்கமாக இருக்கிறது என்பதை நாங்கள் அறிந்திருக்கிறோம் ஆண்டவரே. Because you are more concerned about eternity. இன்றைக்கு இன்னைக்கு எங்களுடைய வாழ்க்கை உங்களுடைய கையில சமர்ப்பிக்கிறோம். Lord, we submit our hands, submit our life into your hands so that you can take us. நீங்க புடமிட்டு எங்களை பரிசுத்தமாக்கி எங்களை ஒரு நல்ல ஒரு மனுஷியாக மாற்றின ஆண்டவரே. இந்த உலகத்தில் இருக்கிற வேளையில எங்களுக்கு அந்த கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ் தாங்க ஆண்டவரே, to withstand the troubles and trials of our life. எங்களுக்கு கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ் தாங்க ஆண்டவரே, the perseverance that this too will pass away. எங்களுக்கு அந்த courage தாங்க ஆண்டவரே, அது முற்றிலுமாக எதிர்த்து நிற்பதற்கும் அதை மாற்றி போடுவதற்கும் எங்களோடு கூட பேசும்படியாக ஜெபிக்கிறோம். தொடர்ந்து வழி நடத்தும் இயேசு கிறிஸ்து நாமத்தில் ஜெபிக்கிறேன் ஜீவனுள்ள நல்ல பிதாவே, ஆமென்.
When it came to marriage, we thought we knew everything. I've been married to my wife.
Moved to Los Angeles, pretty much seeking fame and fortune. I had some success at acting and some.
I'm consistently standing on the precipice, right? I am painfully aware of what's reality for everyone. And so to be aware of how limited time is puts a certain seriousness in you that probably wasn't there before. I'm always serious about the Lord, always been serious about the Lord. But I can feel time now. On Thanksgiving morning, I poured myself a cup of coffee and walked in to this room. Lauren called to me from the kitchen and asked me to feed Nora, who was 6 months at the time, her bottle. And so I fed her her bottle, burped her, put her in her Johnny Jump Up, which is a little thing that sits in a doorway that a kid jumps up and down in. And that's literally my last memory.
I could hear the kids and Matt in the living room.
I've been married to my wife
and
for the last 15 years.
all of a sudden I hear this crash and
I usually
said,
work about
Daddy?
60 to
and
65
so
hours.
I walk in from the kitchen and I hear just kind of the fireplace tools
I felt like
just
I was
kind of
not
rattling
loved.
and that's when I see Matt
I felt
on
like
the
I was
floor
neglected
in a
because
grand mal
I literally
seizure
for the
and
longest
called
felt like we were
911
two
and
individual
we
beings
go to the hospital
trying
and
to live
they
together,
unload him
like
from the ambulance and that's
and
the
I'm
first
thinking,
time he
hey, I'm
recognizes me.
sacrificing
for
when
taking care of the
the ER
family.
doctor
But eventually,
came in, he said,
I would
there's
hear
a
her say,
mass
how
on your
is your
frontal lobe,
second
you're
wife
going to need
doing?
to go see a neurosurgeon.
I go see Dr. Barnett, who's the neurosurgeon that we
taking care
scheduled.
of you.
And man, I'm
And
not
of course
in
that
that
made him
room
mad.
5 minutes
like,
before he
what do you
pulls up
mean,
that
second
MRI and
wife?
goes, this looks
You know, she was
really
like,
bad.
well, you're
It's
always
signaling malignant and we need to do
and you
surgery
don't have
ASAP.
time
And
for
man,
us,
the bottom fell
me
out
or
for
the
me.
kids.
I couldn't
I thought that was kind
hardly
of degrading because for me, having a second wife
until
is
later
like,
that
man,
evening.
that's like committing
I
adultery.
found my footing again, began to remember who God is, remember that this hadn't
and
taken me
I
by
would counter
surprise.
back
And
to
then
say, you know
my
what?
theology actually
I
began
work
to,
all this time. What do you
help
think
me
I'm
again
doing this
process.
for?
And but that moment I felt like
My
I got
mom,
punched in
being
the soul.
very strong personality, will try to intrude
remember us
into my
walking
family
down to,
area.
I felt like she did
get some
not
more
respect
scans done,
me
and
as his wife,
Matt
and
just
she started
weeping
stepping
about,
into the role
what
of
this could
still
cost
caring
him,
for
mainly with
him,
the
even
kids,
though the Bible
and
says
that it
leave
would
and cleave. He gave more
something in
weight to
between
what
them and the
she
Lord,
had to say,
and it
instead
would be a
of what
stumbling
I
block
was saying.
for them
From
trusting Him and knowing
Susan's
Him.
point of view,
I'd
I
kissed the
was
kids goodbye,
trying
I'd written
to
letters, I had
choose
written a blog
my
to the
mom
church.
or her
to me,
needs
I
more
was
than my wife and
getting
my
ready
kids
to say
need.
goodbye
When he
and
would
began to just
ask
think
for
about
things,
that
I'm
I'm
like,
either going
well,
to wake
you know,
up
you're
groggy
your
in
mama's
the
boy,
ICU,
so why don't you
or
go
I'm
to your
gonna
mama
wake up
and
in
ask
glory.
for it? And what I did
So
in
we waited
turn
in
was
the
not
waiting room,
respectful at all.
When she
Finally,
said that I'm not
after
man
8
enough
hours,
to deal with the
he was
situation,
done,
it kind
and
of
they
made
had
me
rolled him
mad
into
because
the,
I'm thinking that's
neuro
disrespectful.
ICU. He
I was
knew us.
coming
He
to a point
recognized
of being
everybody.
very tired
Even though it wasn't
of
as bad as what I
constant
thought it would
fights.
be, it was still
Like
a
we'll
shock.
be good for weeks, and then
to
all
see
of
him
a
so
sudden
weak.
we'll go
And
back
my
into the
lowest
crazy
point in
cycle.
that whole
She
process
said, I don't want to
was
live like this.
the
And
day that I
used
found
the
out
word
his diagnosis
divorce.
and prognosis.
When
and
I
knowing
used
his
that
prognosis
word,
of 2 to 3 years
it kind of
at
shook
the
me
time,
up to say, you know what,
I
for
went,
me to
out
use that word
where everybody
means
else
something
was,
is terribly
my
wrong
mom, my
between me
dad,
and her.
Matt's parents.
We need to change the story, and that's
Other,
when we ended up
husbands and
taking
wives, seeing
the
them
class Love and
interact,
Respect.
and how
I
sad it
saw
was that
the
I wasn't
change
guaranteed
in
that.
her body language was
I
different.
don't know
I
if I'll
saw
have
her
my
starting.
husband in a year or 2 or 3. It was December, and they were playing Christmas music down in the cafeteria, and I remember thinking how
consistently
sad
standing
it sounded.
on the precipice, right? I am painfully aware of what's reality for everyone. And so to be aware of how limited time is puts a certain seriousness in you that probably wasn't there before. I'm always serious about the Lord, always been serious about the Lord. But I can feel time now. On Thanksgiving morning, I poured myself a cup of coffee and walked in to this room. Lauren called to me from the kitchen and asked me to feed Nora, who was 6 months at the time, her bottle. And so I fed her a bottle, burped her, put her in her Johnny Jump Up, which is a little thing that sits in the doorway that a kid jumps up and out. That's literally always serious about the Lord, always been serious about the Lord. But I can feel time now. On Thanksgiving morning, I poured myself a cup of coffee and walked in to this room. Lauren called to me from the kitchen and asked me to feed Nora, who was 6 months at the time, her bottle. And so I fed her a bottle, burped her, put her in her Johnny Jump Up, which is a little thing that sits in the doorway that a kid jumps up and out.
They unload him from the ambulance, and that's the first time he recognizes me. When the ER doctor came in, he said, there's a mass on your frontal lobe. You're going to need to go see a neurosurgeon.
I go see Dr. Barnett, who's the neurosurgeon that we scheduled. And man, I'm not in that room 5 minutes before he pulls up that MRI and goes, this looks really bad. It's signaling malignant and we need to do surgery ASAP. And man, the bottom fell out for me. And I couldn't hardly function that day until later that evening. I found my footing again, began to remember who God is, remember that this hadn't taken him by surprise. And then my theology actually began to help me again process. But that moment I felt like I got punched in the soul.
I remember us walking down to get some more scans done, and Matt just weeping about what this could cost him, mainly with the kids, and that it would put something in between them and the Lord, and it would be a stumbling block for them trusting him and knowing him.
I'd kissed the kids goodbye, I'd written letters, I had written a blog to the church, to me, I was getting ready to say goodbye and began to just think about that I'm either gonna wake up groggy in the ICU or I'm gonna wake up in glory.
So we waited in the waiting room. Finally, I guess 8 hours, he was done, and they had rolled him into the neuro ICU. He knew us, he recognized everybody. Even though it wasn't as bad as what I thought it would be, it was still a shock to see him so weak. My lowest point in that whole process was the day that I found out it was diagnosis and prognosis. Knowing his prognosis of 2 to 3 years at the time, I went, out where everybody else was, my mom, my dad, Matt's parents, other, husbands and wives, seeing them interact, and how sad it was that I wasn't guaranteed that I don't know if I'll have my husband in a year or 2 or 3. It was December, and they were playing Christmas music down in the cafeteria, and I remember thinking how sad it sounded.
They say, you got anaplastic oligodendroglioma, WHO grade 3. You are going to die of this. We're giving you 2 or 3 years. We can extend your life, we can't save your life. After they moved me out of ICU and into a regular hospital room, I was still in and out. I mean, my brain was just kind of frenetic. And then after that, they moved me to rehab. And so I'm in rehab several days. They're trying to stress out my brain to get other parts of my brain to come over and help. And they just began to work through those things until they began to come back enough that I could function in such a way that I could go home and be around the kids and be around Lauren. And that was December 16th.
He would interact as much as he could, but he just couldn't be 100% present. And he would just listen to music all the time. And it really was healing for him. It was annoying for me, but for him, it was healing.
After surgery, we moved almost immediately into radiation and chemo. The full dose round, it blew me up. That first round, I became so depressed and melancholy. There was a day or two there that I was doubting my salvation. And so after that first round, we cleared my schedule that year. I mean, I canceled speaking engagements. We simplified my role at the church. And so I'd do what I could up front, and then I'd crash.
The kids, they were more concerned about Matt's hair and his scar than they were about cancer. They just couldn't wrap their minds around it.
We thought for a while Audrey didn't quite understand until we were up praying. She said her normal prayer, and then she said, "No, God, I know that sometimes you take people home early, and that you're God, but I'm asking that you don't do that with my daddy." And then we were like, "Okay, she gets it." And then we came downstairs and just wept. The thing that haunted me in that wasn't death, but I also know how you die of this. And I know it's not pretty, and those last few months you're not in your right mind anymore, and you cease to be you. And so really the thing that would gnaw at me for the longest time was the thought that my kids would become embittered towards the Lord, towards what I treasure more than anything else in the universe, really was a weight that almost crushed me. But even in that, the Lord began to be sweet and began to remind me, hey, I love your kids more than you do. So let me ask you a question, Matt. Is their salvation and their health depending on you, or is it depending on me? Because I think you're giving yourself a little too much credit.
Now I'm seeing that faith is just believing that the Lord will work all things for the good of those who love Him. And that doesn't mean that everybody comes out okay, but that He's there. In Psalm 107, it says that He brings them into their desired haven. And I think before desired haven might have been that, Matt's healed, that I've learned that the desired haven isn't an outcome, but it's Jesus. The beauty of going through this is that puts it to the test. It was every other month, and now every 3 months when we go for an MRI and we see, okay, has the Lord chosen to hold this thing back, or is it something else?
And you've always got the anxiety of the scans. The only time that hadn't been true is this last one, which was interesting to me because it was a big one. Because if this past one was clear, then I get to be off chemo. If it wasn't, then we were going to move to another phase of treatment. And so I should have been anxious on this last one, and I wasn't. So I'm hoping that the Lord's done something in my heart, that I'm trusting Him fully in the place that anxiety won't wreck me.
When it came to marriage, we thought we knew everything. We didn't know diddly squat, but we thought we did. We kind of thought marriage would be like when we dated. We laughed a lot, had fun a lot.
In our early years of marriage was just hard right from the beginning.
Conflict for us was continual. That doesn't mean that every time we got together there was a fight. Sometimes you wouldn't know there's a problem.
It was very difficult for me to be submissive or respect a husband. I honestly never knew how to do that. It was never modeled for me. I never understood it.
I actually didn't know for a man that respect was a big deal, that really it was more important than love. I know love is important for Julie. I didn't understand that as a husband myself. But I look back, and what would really set me down is if I'd come home, she would start off with something negative right away. Or anything I said, she's got kind of a strong personality. She's going to tell me what's wrong and what we ought to do. I want to kind of lead our family, but what it did for me is well, you just go ahead and you do that. And that's your thing. I'm out of there. But that had an effect on me.
I guess I started nagging and never wanted to do that. Larry, when are you going to be home? Are you going to be home for dinner tonight? I really need your help with the kids. We need some things done around the house. I really need your home. When are you going to be home? And I never let up.
There was like nothing positive. At least if there was positive, I didn't hear that. I only heard what's wrong with this, what I didn't do. And what I heard was, you're not really capable. You're not much of a man. You're not much of a husband. She didn't use those words, but that's the message I heard.
My head knew that Larry loved me. My heart never met my head. My heart never really felt like I was loved unconditionally. And I'm thinking, Lord, how can you ask me to do this? How could he ask me to love and submit to a man that I never really felt loved me? He only loved what I could do for him. And it was many years later when I realized, as I was reading God's word, that my relationship with my husband was a direct picture of my relationship with the Almighty. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I treated God like I treat Larry, that is not a good thing. That was devastating to me. The Lord that I loved, I would never treat like that. And so it caused me to look at my heart, and regardless of what Larry did, how did I really love him? How did I submit myself to him? And how did I respect him?
And she started reflecting to me Christ, and the way she addressed me, it's just moving. And I thought, what in the world is going on in my wife?
All of a sudden, he just started to change. He asked me how he could pray for me. He just started doing like the dishes that he would never do before. He was kinder. Sometimes if I would get snappy, he would just love me regardless. And as I learned to trust Larry and learned to let God heal my heart, it's kind of amazing what God does. It's great.
I've been married to my wife for the last 15 years. I usually work about 60 to 65 hours.
His job is high intensity, high stress. I felt like I was not loved. I felt like I was neglected because I literally for the longest felt like we were two individual beings trying to live together, like coexisting pretty much.
And I'm thinking, hey, I'm sacrificing for taking care of the family. But eventually I would hear her say, how is your second wife doing?
I used to ask, how is your work wife, taking care of you? And of course that made him mad.
And I would be like, what do you mean second wife? She would be like, well, you're always working and you do not have time for us, me or the kids. I thought that was kind of degrading because for me, having a second wife is like, man, that's like committing adultery. So it turned into an argument, and I would counter back to say, you know what? I work all this time. What do you think I'm doing this for? My mom, being, a very strong personality, will try to intrude into my family area.
I felt like she did not respect me as his wife, and she started stepping into the role of still caring for him, even though the Bible says leave and cleave. He gave more weight to what she had to say instead of what I was saying.
From Susan's point of view, I was trying to choose my mom or her needs more than my wife and my kids' need.
When he would ask for things, I'm like, well, you know, you're your mama's boy, so why don't you go to your mama and ask for it? And what I did in turn was not respectful at all.
When she said that I'm not man enough to deal with the situation, it kind of made me mad because I'm thinking that's disrespectful.
I was coming to a point of being very tired of constant fights. Like, we will be good for weeks and then all of a sudden we'll go back into the crazy cycle.
She said, you know, I don't want to live like this, and I used the word divorce. When I used that word, it kind of shook me up to say, you know what, for me to use that word means something is terribly wrong between me and her.
We need to change the story, and that's when we ended up taking the class Love and Respect.
I saw the change in her. Her body language was different. I saw her starting to respect me, and the tone changed. To know that she values what I'm doing makes me feel like, wow, you know, man, I can fight the world, but my wife is here with me and she understands what I'm doing.
I would go up to his office and just give him a hug or just say hi, and he would apologize to me, which would never happen before.
Just enjoying each other's company. Allowing her and giving her that time made her feel that she is loved and respected.
I moved to Los Angeles pretty much seeking fame and fortune. I had some success at acting and some success at writing. It ultimately wasn't enough to sustain me, so I kind of fell into set design, and that's what I do now. For a while, it was fulfilling, but I always felt it wasn't enough. Like, I wanted to be kind of bigger and do bigger things, and I wanted to be the photographer instead of the set designer, and like I wanted my name to be bigger on the magazine or whatever. I felt like I was just constantly striving to do something that people would recognize and to make my mark and to get affirmation, and my peers were all super successful in Hollywood, and so I always was striving to kind of keep up with them. I just felt if I got that, then that would fulfill me and that would fill that void in me. I also pursued relationships with guys, and I pursued those to fill that void as well. I always thought with each guy, I thought, okay, this is gonna be the one. This is gonna be the person that saves me and makes me happy, and this is like gonna give me meaning in life and purpose, and of course, they all failed. All the things that I was pursuing were not filling me, where they weren't fulfilling anything. I never thought about God. I just kind of thought God is a fairy tale. It's all a fairy tale and it's not real. I was at a coffee shop in Los Angeles and I saw a group of people reading Bibles. It kind of piqued my interest, and I was with a friend, and everyone got up and left except this one person, and we turned around and started chatting with him. He explained his faith and the gospel really well to me. This person I met at this coffee shop invited me to his church. I had no idea what I was getting into, and I walked into this church and I sat down, and Pastor Tim started preaching on Romans 7, and I just remember being blown away by everything he was saying. I remember thinking that every word was truth. It was kind of a Saul to Paul conversion. Like God just revealed Jesus was real, the Bible was real, heaven was real, the resurrection was real, everything was real. In that moment, I knew everything was absolutely truth. And I just remember that day just being so filled with, so many emotions, but one just like was, I know the meaning of life now. Like, this is crazy. Like, I know the meaning of life, and I can't believe it. Like, everyone's pursuing the meaning of life, and I know it. I was actually working on a shoot, so I went immediately on Monday back to work. I was so full of joy that I just told everyone on every shoot I was working on. I was like, I just met Jesus Christ, and he's real, and it's amazing, and I'm a Christian. And a lot of people were very surprised. I suddenly saw set design as just a total blessing. Because I'm on different sets like every week. I'm exposed to a lot of different people, and I just find that it's just a great place to share the gospel. When I talk to people who struggle with homosexuality and I share the gospel with them, it can be difficult, but what I find is interesting is they can never say you haven't been in my shoes, because I've been in their shoes, and I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what you are thinking and what you feel, because I was in the exact same situation. Like, I thought that being gay was absolutely who I was. Like, from the core of my being, I believed that's who I was. And then after my conversion, my identity just completely changed, and my identity was in Christ. I don't care if I never get to be in a relationship again with someone on this earth and have a romantic relationship and be with another person. Like, I have a relationship with the King of the universe, and nothing compares to that. And so I don't ever feel that it's unfair. I don't feel like I'm being kind of cheated out of something. I just feel absolutely the opposite. I feel like it's amazing grace that I get to know the God of the universe and have a relationship with him.